unnerving. That was very unnerving.
Funniness.
We are.
Just living in California, there's wildfires, you come out with a layer of ash on your cover. But no one told you to not go outside and wear hats.
I suck it up.
No one, they never give an air quality warning.
All right, after some significant technical difficulties, I will call the order this June regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trustees Board of Trustees. Are there any changes to the agenda other than this time?
I had an ask for us to discuss trees obstructing the Atlas sign that are in the tree lawn and if we have opinions about them. So I was gonna put that as new business, I guess.
Okay. Anything else? There's no other changes to the agenda, then the next item is our consent agenda. Which includes our abstract meeting minutes, which I'm going to now. Well. You want to abstract pretty.
It's reference. So this is 9 a.m. but it was in June.
We have meeting minutes from May the 8th, May the 22nd. We have two abstracts, one for the fiscal year that just ended at the end of May. General fund claims totaling $246,684.24. EMS billing abstract totaling $7,735.60. Water fund abstract totaling $43,166.71. Sewer fund abstract totaling $20,968.40. And the trust agency abstract totaling $2,491.22. And then we have our first abstract of the new fiscal year general fund totaling $26,377.76. Sewer fund abstract totaling $8,268 even. And the trust and agency abstract totaling $51,448.53. So I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, conversations on anything in the consent agenda?
What is grinding for McDonald contracting?
That is the mulch and some stuff that
And that,
That makes sense.
yeah, that's what that is. And there's also Dusty and I are working through an updated like policy for the dump and what it's used for and what it's not used for.
Yeah, it
cool.
sounds like there's some problems, huh?
There's a lot of people throwing a lot of stuff. And to be fair, we haven't been particularly clear about what is and isn't supposed to go in there and who should be doing what now. So we're going to tighten that up because part of it comes out in that when we have enormous amounts of things and everything kind of jumbled together, it takes them a lot longer. Grinding costs a lot more. So we're looking into that.
Any other comments, questions on the consent agenda?
No, just
No.
to note that I wasn't here for one of the meetings, so.
Okay. Hearing no other comments or questions, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, item number 4 is our first public comment period. There are no members of the public present in person. I see one member of the public present online. David, if you have anything you'd like to add or say, just let me know at any time. We'll let you jump in. And so I will move along to item number 5, which is reports of representatives. Let's see, Mary and Ann are both here, whichever one of you would like to go first, please proceed.
I can go ahead. Let's see, we at the county, we celebrated Memorial Day, of course. We also had well, as part of that, we also made sure we celebrated veterans and their families and helped get flags out to the cemeteries. We are working on a jail working group, which we've been doing for quite a while, actually, but it's just wanted to give a little update on that. Part of the reason that that's actually the past 6 months, I think we've been working on that, and that's to see if we want to expand our jail, do some other renovations, or do we, so we're just looking at that. One of the big parts of that I think is important to see is, do we have enough services for people, and trying to look at recidivism, because a lot of people are back and forth, unfortunately. Our weights and measures department will be under our highway department. I don't know if that's of any interest to folks, but we had a vacancy in that position. So hopefully having that be under our highway department will help with consistency. We also did, beginning of June, proclamations for LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Women's Veterans Day also is this month. And let's see, we had a property tax auction postponed, but that doesn't affect any properties in the village. We got our homeless coordinator position filled. And so some of the things we started looking at and finding out is that we have, over the course of COVID, we've had a huge increase in the number of people who are homeless, and they have more complex issues. And for a variety of reasons, including it's hard at the county, just as it is everywhere, to hire people. We have less availability of services at the county and also across most of the nonprofits. So that's not a convergence we'd like to see. And I think those were the main issues. We're working on budget, as always, for most of the year. So if you had any specific questions, I'll answer those. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Any questions for Ann? All right, thank you. Mary.
Yeah. What the town of Ulysses has been doing over the past month, we appointed 2 more people to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. We appointed Allison Weaver as a business rep. She runs the Ness Sibley Funeral Home. And also as a village rep, we appointed Rose Hansen to the steering committee. And we're still looking for someone on, someone who lives along the lake shore. We as far as like having a well-rounded representation on the committee. So if you know anybody who lives down near the lake and might be interested, please have them get in touch with town, with Carissa. The town has formalized training requirements for staff and council members, and will require regular training every year in the area of ethics, civil rights, and sexual harassment. We're also working on a formalized process for initiating water districts. And as part of that, we're hammering out some policies. We had an information session on May 31st on possible water district extensions for along Route 96. It was a little surprising when we had quite a few Rabbit Run Road residents show up. They, I didn't actually know there were that many people who lived on Rabbit Run Road, but they are really interested in forming a water district there. So that might happen in the future, but you know, it's a long process, put it that way. But at least they have information on how to form a water district if the majority of the people on that road would like to have a water district. In other business, Rich Goldman volunteered to work with our code officer in hammering out a noise ordinance, which kind of got shelved after we worked on it for a while. I think it was last year. It could have been the year before. We had initially been advised by our attorney that we use decibel measurement for enforcement. So since then, we've changed attorneys, and our new attorney said that the decibel measurement is hard to enforce, and really we should go with the reasonable person standard for noise ordinance. I know that that's what the village had, and we were kind of hoping to have our ordinance be, in line with the village. So I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but I guess if you're interested in providing input, Rich Goldman is the town council person to contact about that. And that's about all that I have right now.
Great. Any questions for Mary? Thank you very much, Mary. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on the agenda is our board's reports. I have a couple of items for us to discuss. First is in the Dropbox under 6A or 6A1. We have 2 proposals from MRB to assist with grant writing for 2 large grants that are potentially available this year. The first one we applied for last year and did not get, but has been funded again in this New York State budget cycle. That's the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. We would be resubmitting essentially the same grant application as last year. Would be looking to make general improvements to the front neck, the original front neck well, as well as the booster pump stations associated with it. The total cost quote to assist with the writing of the grant is $4,500. The other grant is new this year. This is federal money. Transportation Alternatives Program is a federally funded grant which is administered through New York State DOT. And we would be applying in this case for sidewalks from Farmers Market to Seneca Road on West Main Street. There is a DOT coordination piece, which is always fun. And that's a separate charge of $4,000. The grant application, the grant writing itself would be $5,500. The reason why the WIA, the water grant writing portion is less, is because they essentially will be rewriting what they wrote last year. The TAP grant will be a written from scratch grant application. So total cost for the sidewalk grant application is $9,500. The WIA grant would be $4,500 for a total of $14,000 between the two. Thoughts, comments, questions?
AI can write these.
Hmm?
AI write these, can AI write these?
Chat GPT do it for us.
Sounds good.
They probably could coordinate with New York State DOT. No, sorry. That's
I think it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely money worth chasing and projects worth doing, so. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Agreed.
If there's no objection, then I would entertain a motion to approve entering into, or rather approve the acceptance of both of these grant writing proposals from MRB as presented to us.
So moved.
second.
Any additional questions, comments, or conversation? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Just reprint that for tomorrow.
Yes.
And then the second thing I have for us to discuss is, believe it or not, it was 3 years ago, way back in the storied days of 2020, when we obtained the Honda Civic for village use or code and zoning. That was a 3-year lease, which comes due at the end of the month. And so we have some options. Option number one is turn it in and walk away, and we no longer have a vehicle for use by our code and zoning officer. That is certainly one option. The second option is we can buy the existing vehicle, which has 16,000 miles. Is that right, Jess? 16,036 miles. It has 16,000 miles on it. It's a Honda, so that may as well be 0 miles. We can buy it for $13,127. We don't have a reserve line for vehicles for code and zoning, so we would have to essentially appropriate fund balance for the purchase. Or because it is a Honda and used cars are in short supply, the value is 18,000 on trade-in. And we could turn around and lease a new Honda for $233.88 a month, which is approximately what we're paying. Just looking to see if I have that number.
You do, but I can also get it.
It's $259 right now. So we would actually be reducing our lease payment by 20 some odd dollars.
I'm assuming.
And the buyout is that much? 259?
No, we would, if we turn in this car and lease a new one, there's about $5,000 in equity in the lease
Right.
vehicle, which would make our new car's lease payment $233.88 a month.
And how much would it be if we bought the car out? Like what, how much?
We would have to pay cash.
We'd have to pay cash.
We can't finance that as a
Okay,
municipality. So we would have to pay $13,127. And we'd have to figure out where we're gonna get that money.
And we budgeted for continuing to pay $250 or so.
Correct. We budgeted $259 a month lease, which would now be reduced by roughly $25 a month.
No, I'm fine with lease. It's like 5 years or so, a little bit more to pay off if we bought it outright, if we used equivalent payments. At that point, we'd be up for another, I mean, to me, that just makes more sense. It's cleaner, it's easier. I'm happy to go in a different direction. Did Tom have a preference?
Haven't touched him. But he just needs a vehicle.
Yeah, fair enough.
Do we consider EV to match our charging stations?
Well, that's kind of part of it, is if we have an EV coming up, it would be nice to be able to turn around and.
Guessing that's a pretty big increase. For a lease.
So I think we're best case, we're a year away from EVs being online. Which if we buy the car, then, it'll have some value if we ever want to trade it in. If we if we turn it in and have a new lease, then it'll be a 3-year lease. So we would have to wait 2 more years. Charges are online next spring, call it. Then we would have 2 years before we.
I mean, in fairness,
Potentially get a
it's
lease.
16,000. I mean, it's not a huge number of miles.
No,
It's not really like the best use case for it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like we're losing out if we don't have an EV or the hypothetical EV chargers that we don't have yet.
Exactly.
Like that would be ideal, but I'm not.
Trying to figure out how I buy this thing. For
Ha,
for that amount. I mean, I think I lean lease as well for the simplicity of it, and it doesn't seem like it's a huge cost savings or value either which way.
right.
No strong feelings.
No
either way?
strong.
Okay. All right, so we've got a couple weeks to get that. Get that cleaned up.
that just conversation.
There's nothing to approve until I have something to sign,
Okay.
but we have budgeted for the money, so that's good for the lease money. I think it would be more, we would need more approval if we were gonna buy it out, because we'd have to find the money. More appropriate money. Okay, good.
Yep. Sounds good.
So that's it from my end. We'll move on to fire and Trumansburg Chamber, Marcia.
Fire, they had, let's see. 20 calls, they had 8 village, 5 town, 4 covert, 1 hectare, 2 mutual aid, and that unfortunate drowning in the fall. Which was terrible. Other than that, it's been slow. They do, have some interest in buying some new tables for the firehouse. And they were hoping that maybe the village could go halvesies with them on it.
Do you have those numbers?
Considering that, yeah, I can get it real quick. Considering that we do use the fire hall for, village things, the total cost, are looking at 20 tables. The total cost is $5,856. And they're asking that maybe we appropriate $2,928 halvesies to go in with them on it.
These 6-foot tables?
I'm assuming they're similar to the ones they already have
Probably
up there.
8
They're
foot.
just,
Yeah.
8 foot,
8.
8 foot. Mm-hmm. And also another thing I wanted to bring up, Matt did bring up, he wanted to make sure that, and I think that's very important for us too, to make sure that we have a record of everybody's driver's licenses that are driving the vehicles up there for our insurance company in case anything comes up. So, I'll get with Matt on that and maybe
Yeah.
you can get with him on making sure that everybody's driver's licenses are on file.
Is that for the fire
That's it,
department vehicles?
huh?
For fire department vehicles?
Yeah, for the, yeah,
We should always have.
We have much more than just their license on file. There's like specialized training and stuff, right?
Not for.
not for apparatus,
To approve them to drive.
right?
They don't require a CDL or any specific training.
They don't do like EVOC though, and
Mm-mm.
We have to have a valid New York State driver's license on file, and I think it's possible that some have slipped through the cracks over the last few years.
Yeah. All right,
I thought there was specific apparatus training, but it's been a minute since
it definitely is for the.
In-house, but there's no.
not requirement for it. I could see that. See how the other side.
So the tables, how does everybody feel about going halves on the tables?
Can't really remember what the tables are like. To be honest with
Older.
you.
We sat at them for the state of the village.
Some of them are a little soft and rickety.
Yeah, yeah. Is that replacing them all outright, or is it like, actually, you
I-
know what, I think it's probably fine. They get a lot of use.
Yeah, they do.
28-foot tables. Where do we set up, also, we just have backup.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely
They-
foodie there.
They do it for, food for
I think when they stage breakfast and then.
breakfast and things.
Or the barbecues. they do.
Yep.
I remember talking to them a little bit, they were saying that. They used to give them out for community events and then they did not get treated well, so they stopped that policy, so.
I mean, but it's still, you can still have public meetings in that room, so
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
still get used.
Right.
To some degree,
Yeah.
probably like the first three,
No, I don't think they've purchased tables. Since I've been here. So those tables are at least. I bet you those tables come back a ways. So they're probably due.
When we say go halvesies, though, where are we thinking our half is coming from?
yeah, that would be my question. It'd actually be EMS and maybe a general fund for litigation.
Yeah, I figured we would just take it out of firehouse. One of those repair lines and then budget mod the difference back in end of the year. Yeah, so I think that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, they're gonna work it anyway, so just.
Okay.
let Matt know that
Okay,
we'll go in half, and then when the bill comes, he'll have to send. Fire company will have to send the village a bill for that.
for that half, okay. Other than that,
Okay, nothing on chamber.
no, Chamber is having an after hours on Thursday at Cedarwood. So all businesses are invited, I will be attending.
Okay. What time on Thursday?
It's at 5 to 7, I believe.
I saw something that they're doing, something like every Sunday there
Yeah, I saw,
now, something like that.
yeah, I saw online, they're really gonna start doing. On times that they don't have events, try and scheduling those weekends when there's something going on there, so that'll be nice. Went to the Mother's Day brunch that they had. That was lovely. It was really nice.
Okay. Okay, good. EMS Youth and Street Tree Advisory Committee.
You start with EMS, call report. In May, there were 16 calls in Covert, 2 in Enfield, 2 in Hector, 10 in Interlaken, 3 in the city of Ithaca, 2 in the town of Ithaca, 8 in Mecklenburg, 7 in Ovid, 1 in Romulus, 20 in the village, and 17 in Ulysses, total of 88 calls.
Oh, Moses.
Don't have much to report other than that, although I do have a hire to talk about in executive session, possible hire. I think on trees, evidently, we need to talk about Atlas. That's intriguing. One thing that I wanted to say, this is already in the newsletter, but the staff has decided this year to go for an application-based system to allocate the $5,000 that we put towards risk mitigation and tree work in the public right away. So rather than going out and proactively identifying all of those trees, we'll now be accepting applications. So Jess, we'll have to connect
Okay.
about that sometime soon.
So individuals will have to fill out the application saying that they have a dangerous tree that they would like.
Right, and I honestly don't know what that will look like.
Okay,
You know, whether that application is just a call to me, or if it's an actual application. I imagine we want
Mhm.
something documented, obviously, but how in depth that goes, I don't know, honestly. We have, at this point, fairly few trees that are of concern, so there's not a huge amount of urgency. The one that I was kind of scared of actually just got taken down on its own, so we'll see. As far as youth goes, our contract negotiations are continuing. They went, since I talked with them last, they've been going well. I feel optimistic about it, so we'll see how this goes over the next couple of weeks. I think that's it. That's all I got. Oh, I should say that, so the EV piece, sorry. I do have a meeting tomorrow with the two representatives from Value Stack Energy, which is the company that helped us do the ZEV grant application. Road has been looking for money elsewhere to help us get from a 50 kW fast charger to something a little more reasonable, a little what you would call future proof, something a little higher, hopefully in the 150 range at least. So if that comes together, we'll see how it goes, but I'll have more on that tomorrow, and Roden presumably will have even more later to come. But that really is all this time.
Okay. DPW water sewer CPZR, farmers market and Quio.
Sure. So on CPZR front, I'm still working with EDR to get that frontage data. They have the first half of that data, and I've gotten to take a bit of a peek at it. They're hopefully going to get the rest of it this week, so that CPZR can take a look next week at their meeting. Also at that meeting, CPZR is looking at any additional potential proposal edits for any residential pieces that we might want to consider. And then on the short-term rental side, we have a FAQ document to go along with the law that we'll hopefully review. And if that looks good, we'll be able to put that out to the community and start scheduling a public information session at the CPZR level for talking about short-term rentals, just to kind of keep everything moving. There was some interest on the committee in kind of absorbing all the different public hearing feedback. And so someone on the committee has kind of collated all that and tried to organize that in some sort of reasonable sense. There may be a bit of a executive summary of that and the data that can be shared here for our interest and consideration as well. So for CPZR, nothing for farmers market. For DPW waters, actually I'll say for Quio first. The big news there is the manager has left and they're looking to restart a search for a new manager for Quio. So that's ongoing. So if you know anyone who would be interested in such a position, I have some of the information on salary and benefits and so forth.
I'm still on the so. No,
Yeah, it's been-
What's that?
The Key Lake water.
Oh, the watershed.
Yeah. I think there's some concern maybe that the compensation is not quite where it needs to be, but it's kind of locked in at the current job description right now, but can be revisited later. But anyhow, the other thing there is, I guess we have till the end of the month to pay our dues. And so did you have
That is in the updated abstract.
in the abstract? Oh, so sorry. So that was already done. That was the separate thing. Got it.
Yeah, they took it.
Fantastic. We have paid our dues. Yeah. And then for DPW water sewer, there's a couple of other things under new and old business, but the one thing Dusty asked me today is he would like to declare the 2015 Ford F-350 dump, as well as the salt spreader and snow plow for that truck, as no further use. We have the new dump finally after 2 years after ordering it. And they're ready to move on with the other one. So I would move that we declare the 2015 Ford F-350 dump truck and associated salt spreader and snow plow as no further use to the village.
Second. Motion in a second. Any questions, conversation, discussion?
And what happens to those old things?
Then we sell them off.
We sell them?
We'll either auction them, or sometimes Dusty has some place that will buy it at a
Okay.
reasonable price.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
And that's it for me.
all right. Police and village ETC.
We'll begin with the monthly report, 204 calls for service, 8 calls from outside the village, assisted sheriff's department with the 2 domestics, physical dispute, larceny, theft investigation, 4 check of the welfare, attempt to locate. All of these happened in Ulysses. In the village, we had 3 domestic investigations of larceny, 3 harassments, an EMS cardiac arrest. And that's it. I think we also helped track down a stolen car, which was a little exciting. So good job to TPD for catching that thievery. Also have a personnel matter to bring forward in executive session. In terms of ETC, we will be meeting Friday. This past Thursday, I believe there was a green team meeting. So we'll get an update on that at Friday's meeting, and we'll bring all that forward to the next board meeting. Good Porch Fest. Saw a lot of people from, a lot maybe is a strong word, saw a handful of people I knew from the other side of the lake who, so I feel like we're getting more known for this. And definitely the finale down on Main Street I thought was really well attended. So
The weather was great.
weather was great. So I think as I got to the second half of Porch Fest, I was coaching down in Main Edwell. We won't talk about that. But yeah, it was great. There's a lot of people walking around. So it had me wondering kind of maybe how ETC can maybe help amplify that event. It seems like a lot of the marketing is, I think they do more than just local marketing, but anyway, it seems like it's starting to bring more people from outside of this area. So might be able to take advantage of that in the future. But great job to the organizers again. For sure.
I haven't had a chance to catch up with Nona and they're close to, last year, Main Street Market reported to her it was their single best day.
Yeah.
Let's see the industry, but definitely fiscal year.
Certainly did my part to support Garrett's and, in other places. So it looked like everyone was having a good time.
Excellent. Anything else?
No.
Treasurer's office.
Veteran office, so I did, the deputy clerk could not be here, today, so she did want to, she's using Jake to over that first, which is to let you know that the summer home newsletter will go out this week. I think everyone received a copy if they wanted to make edits or suggestions to her. If you didn't get that email, let us know tomorrow, we'll send it. She wants to thank everyone who contributed to this. So these are the words. We will be distributing printed copies and we'll post on the website and distribute the MailChimp lister. She and I attended the New York Association of Local Government Records Officers. And we attended that conference. And we're looking forward to implementing some of what we learned. She passed her notary exam and submitted her application to receive the permission. She hopes to begin notarizing later this month. If you have questions for the deputy, you'll have to check up in tomorrow. And so the conference was really fantastic, and you'll see that there are 2 resolutions to deal with records management. But before we do that, just quickly. Which are the taxes were all surface mailed the beginning of June on June 1st. And they were all delivered electronically to escrow. Also, the webpage was updated on how you could pay and just updating the language that was a little bit out there. And as of today, I've processed through the bank 13% of the total levy. So I think that's really fascinating that in the first 7 days, some people having those 13% of payments came in pretty big. I will process their system actually. I will be presenting a way to make tax payments more fluid in terms of online options for your consideration later. Water fees are in process for the July billing. So we're just on top of that. And I don't know if I brought to your attention that we were concerned about the reader, the Trimble reader. But we did some troubleshooting. It's we shouldn't worry about that. There's no need to consider $25,000 to replace that. And we are also working, Jen and I will work together to compile a side-by-side comparison of 3 IT quotes that we got. One from Advanced 2000, one from HBM, which is through the Village of Cuda Heights Units, and one from Synergy, a woman-run company that does support for Tompkins County Library. Just to make it easier, of course, we're gonna have access to the full quote, but it's able to see that through. And so at the clerk conference, we learned that one, there's a resolution that we need to pass, which is New York State Archives has a way that they want you to do your records management into retention and disposition. And it used to be called an MU, and now it is LGS1. And so, Vernon, do you read that or do I?
Neither of us do yet. We're
Okay.
doing that under new business.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should look at the agenda. Great. And then there'll be another thing to be able to adopt. The original copies of records can be digital instead, so that all paper copies are secondary. This is going to greatly improve the efficiency of the office as well as security of our records. The other thing that we learned, which is the last part of my update, is that we have access to Laserfiche, which is a program that can read your document and its native file. So it could be a CAD file, or it could be an Adobe, be a Word document, and it uploads it to the platform, and then it can crawl for whatever words you search in it. So all of your minutes, all of your things, if you wanted to know, something specific that happened, it can scan through all of your records. And then it also is a repository. It becomes your library of truth. For your records. The county worked with the past administration in the office to start that program. We have a license under them. And so we're gonna move forward, trying to get you all as Dorothy excited about this as I am, but there, I got one. Okay. We're gonna move forward with the county clerk to be able to implement that, which is it's miraculous. And then in that you'll be hearing from me about records management policy that I'd like to adopt in the office. And a protocol and how we file things. No more words.
Anything specific to the treasurer?
The taxes. The abstract filed an extension, which we habitually do for the annual report called APD. I just did that today, so we'll hear back from them. It's not until the end of July, so there's no time to hear back. No, unless you have any, you and I will need to work on. Once we have all the financials or to see what budget modifications can be proposed, if any.
That's you and Dwayne.
Me and Dwayne, but then the board has to adopt it, right?
We will adopt and accept what Dwayne tells us.
Okay, yeah. But I don't have all of May's bills yet. It's an interesting, there's like 3 abstracts of it right now.
Did you see the constitutional debt filing email today?
Let's just tax. Let's just
For it.
okay, it might be in there, if it doesn't, we'll get it.
All right, any questions for Jessica?
Oh, maybe one other little update, not that you're still worrying about it, but as clerk treasurer with taxes and then making deposits, I developed a sheet whereby the deputy clerk reviews and can say, this is what the tax journal is, and yes, these are the cash deposits, and then the check and credit, and she signs off, and I think so there's oversight. That's it.
Good. Item number 7, old business. We had our public hearing on the draft sewer law last month. We have 2 items to do before we can consider adopting the sewer law. The first is to review the full environmental assessment form part 3. And Ben, do you want to
Sure.
take us through this?
So under 7AI1, you'll see that full EAF part 3, which I will read. So this is determining the significance of the project. And this particular one is checks box A, which is to say this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. And I will read the kind of reasoning behind this, but let's see. The proposed action is consistent with the character of the community and surrounding neighborhood. The proposed Village of Trumansburg sewer use law adoption will not have a significant impact on the surrounding lands, surface water, flooding, traffic, energy use, wildlife, aesthetic resources, natural resources, flooding or drainage, or human health. The Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees has reviewed and accepted part 1 of the full environmental assessment form for this action. The Board of Trustees completed a coordinated review under state environmental quality review regulations and received no objections to being designated lead agency. The Board of Trustees is in a separate resolution designated themselves as lead agency and as lead agency for this action under the provisions of Part 617 of the SEQA regulations has given a thorough and comprehensive evaluation of the impacts likely to result from the proposed action. Based upon this evaluation and the Board of Trustees review of the full EAF Part 2 and 3, the Board of Trustees in a separate resolution adopted on June 12th, 2023 has determined the proposed action will not likely result in a significant adverse impact upon the environment and that a negative declaration is issued. Please see the attached document supporting the full EAF in support of this decision. So that is the part 3. And I believe we authorize Rorden to sign this document.
It'll actually be, I'll read the
I'll be in that
resolution.
Okay.
Which says, whereas the Village of Trumansburg Village Board of Trustees, hereinafter referred to as Village Board, has determined the above referenced action to be a type 1 action pursuant to Part 617 of the State Environmental Quality and Review (SEQA) regulations. And whereas the Village Board has reviewed and accepted the completed full environmental assessment form, parts 1, 2, and 3 on the action prepared by the MRB group. And whereas the Village Board has completed the coordinated review and public comment period provided for under the SEQA regulations, and whereas the Village Board has designated itself as lead agency under the SEQA regulations for making the determination of significance upon said action, and whereas the Village Board has given consideration to the criteria for determining significance as set forth in section 617.7C1 of the SEQA regulations and the information contained in full environmental assessment form parts 1, 2, and 3. Now, therefore, be it resolved that said action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts based on the review of the full environmental assessment form. And be it finally resolved that the Village Board of Trustees does hereby make a determination of non-significance on said action, and the village mayor is hereby directed to issue the negative declaration as evidence of the Village Board of Trustees' determination of environmental non-significance. And would someone like to move that?
I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
Any questions or comments?
Does this need a separate resolution to sign this, or does that count? Because it seems to sort of talk about having already approved the part 3 in the resolution. I think just to be safe, I'll add a friendly amendment that we direct the mayor to sign part 3 as the way that we issue that declaration, or as one of the ways. Does that seem amenable?
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment authorizing me to sign the actual signature line of the FEAF part 3. Is that okay to the mover?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion as amended. Any additional questions or comments?
Can I actually ask a point of order, which would be the action of declaring it as your signature? So is it necessary? Do we have to change this resolution?
No. Any other questions? Okay, well, hearing none, all in favor of authorizing my signing FEAF Part 3 and accepting this resolution declaring non-significance and on this type 1 action, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Jess, you'll print all that for me for tomorrow, please. Which brings us to the next item under old business, which is the consideration of adoption of the new sewer use law. I'll read this resolution in and then we can move it or not and second it and then discuss it. So whereas the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees, hereinafter referred to as Village Board, did on April 28th, 2023, last amend the document entitled Village of Trumansburg Sewer Use Law Update, hereinafter referred to as Sewer Use Law, prepared by MRB Group, DPC, the village engineering firm. And whereas the village board referred the proposed sewer use law to the Tompkins County Planning Board for review and recommendation. And whereas substantial opportunities for public input and comment were provided to the citizens of Trumansburg and a public hearing was held on the sewer use law on May 22nd, 2023. And whereas the members of the village board have carefully and thoroughly reviewed the sewer use law and is satisfied that it meets the needs of the village and requirements of applicable laws. Now therefore be it finally resolved that the village board hereby adopts the sewer use law dated April 28, 2023. And would someone like to move that?
I'll move that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
It always feels so anticlimactic at the end.
If there are no questions and there is no conversation, then all in favor of adopting the new sewer use law, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, any other items of old business? Okay, item number 8 is new business. We have a conversation about proposed water and sewer rates.
Yes, so a couple months ago, I brought the water rate proposal here for discussion. And in looking back at this, now that we have the sewer law adopted and we need sewer rates adjusted, I wasn't able to find any resolution of actually saying that we would change the water rates. So I first wanted to start by coming back to the water rates we've discussed a couple months ago, and as long as we're still all on board, would be looking to actually have a motion to change the water rates to the ones that are in the Dropbox, which is to say $37.50 per EDU as a base rate, $7 per 1,000 kilograms on top of that, and then $23 per EDU for the capital charge. And that is right in line with what we've been expecting. I think it's actually a little higher than we were hoping for as we've dug into the details of the water budget at this point. But we have been moving kind of in increments since last year. We kind of got halfway-ish to this, and this would get us all the way to our desired rate for the water to get that back to being whole, which we've been running a deficit for quite some time, a number of years at this point.
So this is ratifying the rates we are intending for this next billing cycle.
Yeah, and so the idea is for this one to go into effect for the July, August bills that will be sent out in September. So,
Are you moving that?
yeah, so I'll make a motion to update our water rates to, I'll say it again, $37.50 per EDU for the annual base, $7 for each 1,000 gallons of water use on top of that. And then what did I say? I said $23 per EDU for the annual capital rate. For the capital charge.
Okay, and 1.5 times for outside users.
And 1.5 times for outside users for the base, but not for the capital. The capital is what is the same across everyone.
And for the usage.
And for the, yes, right, 1.5 for the base and the usage, 1x for the capital charge.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. I think I'm just being slow here, but where are those numbers on
So,
here? You-
yeah, so I probably could have made this more clear. Those are taking those numbers and dividing by 6. So there was a, because in the middle of all this, we went from 4 times a year to 6
Just
times
that.
a year.
Mhm.
I've been trying to keep things at an annual rate, so it doesn't have a change there, but then you have to kind of know to back out to say per billing period, what we're talking about.
So I think when you read it, you said annual rate. But you were saying billing.
Sorry, yes. Let me try this one more time. So it's $37.50 per billing period for the base per EDU. And then 23 per billing period for the capital per EDU.
Any other questions, comments?
Painful but necessary. We can't
Yeah.
we can't keep running in the red either, just
Right.
kicks the can down the road.
I mean, yeah, we're, I think as we've mentioned here before, we're at the point where we're borrowing from taxpayers to pay the water system, which
Yeah.
is not good.
No.
Needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, just for anyone keeping track at home, the water project was concluded in the fall of 2018. We intentionally decided not to raise rates immediately in 2019. To try to ease in these increases over time. Something happened in 2020 to delay all of that by a couple of years. And now here we are catching up. So. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Which takes us to sewer rates.
Sewer rates. So, this is the result of having Municipal Solutions look into our sewer rates and do the same study that they did for the water rates. Coming out of that, we kind of have one, maybe 2 decisions to make. Municipal Solutions has suggested we move towards having a water, like a usage fee. So use for the sewer. So there's a base rate, much like water, there's a base rate and then a use fee on top based on water, which is similar to many municipalities around here. The idea being that you take a shower, you use the bathroom, you wash pots and pans, whatever, it goes down the drain, it goes to the sewer plant. That is kind of a way to track who's using the sewer more or less than others. We, in the past until now, still don't have that structure. We just have a 1 flat fee base rate. So one of the conversations to have is, would we like to adjust to moving towards a water usage component in the sewer rate, or remain with our kind of flat fee for everybody? I've heard some of the reasoning for wanting to stay with a flat fee is not all the water you use goes down the drain. You know, you wash your car, you water the lawn, so on and so forth. I think there's real value to that. At the same time, there is also a distinction between someone who is, lives alone by themselves and they take, 1 shower and so forth, versus a house of 5 people that are taking all sorts of showers and having a larger impact to the sewer. Financially, that person who's using the shower one time, just one time a day versus 5 times a day is kind of subsidizing the group that's using the shower 5 times a day. I think me personally, I end up coming down on the side of it's imperfect to use water, but I think it might be better than not using anything at all. That there is a real sense that how you use the sewer system should be reflected in your rate. And while it's imperfect, it's better than just kind of giving up on the whole enterprise of trying to track it in any sort of way. But I wanted to have that conversation here. I will say at the end of the day, the increase in bill is within $1, just over $1 of each other between the two for the average user. So I'm not sure it makes a huge heck of a difference for the average user. I think what you'll see is the low end user paying more, the high end user paying a little less if we were to not have water rates included. But overall, it's not a huge difference. So I'm kind of can go either way, but me personally, I would like to look towards moving towards using that water component. So I think it does add a little bit more fairness, even though in and of itself, it's not the best number in the world, but it's better than nothing for me personally. But I'll kind of open up that conversation.
The second part, the second or third part of that is when do you want to phase these in?
Yes, that's the other question.
Because we have water rates increasing in this next billing cycle.
Right. And so we can talk about, I think there's kind of almost two questions in that. One is, do we do it in stages, like halfway and then halfway again? And do we do that in cycle with these water, or maybe wait another 6 months and then another 6 months after that, or something like that? We can, that's kind of the next part too.
So the water usage versus non-water usage, any thoughts? I will say that we did look at this. Feels like 10 years ago or more. And there was some interest in moving towards a usage component. And we ended up deciding not to do it at the time because there was some desire for stability in the sewer rate versus creating a, water fluctuates based on your usage. So there was some desire to have sewer be consistent and flat versus have a variable component. And then the other piece was would there be a way to quantify the water usage that doesn't impact the sewer? So when it's really dry, people water their gardens, people water their lawns, people water their raised beds, whatever. Versus the valid argument that if everyone's charged the same sewer rate, then people who don't impact the sewer very much are paying more than they should. So
My thinking would be, I would be more worried about. Like, I know the golf course doesn't use as much water as they used to, but I'll just use them as an example. So someone who's really an outlier. Right, getting essentially double charged for water usage. And since we don't have a way to forgive that, we don't have a way to catch the like edge cases, and we can't then forgive it. That would be my concern, right? Like, we don't have a way to back it up. Because if we find like oh no, that's like the case we didn't foresee, we don't have a way to say, oops.
There's a little bit of,
I will say conceptually, I 100% agree. But I
Yeah.
think that's the way to go. I like moving towards something that's more usage based. But this seems like a hard way.
so I would actually, and I thought about like the school, for instance, waters quite a bit. Golf course, obviously. I would actually recommend, and not just for this reason, for a couple of different reasons, recommend that that they would have a separate water account that is not related to any sewer account. In general, more and more, we're moving towards having usage come in a couple of different ways. One of those ways is EDUs. So EDUs are equivalent dwelling units. For a residence, is there a dwelling? Is it a two dwelling unit, a 4 dwelling unit, whatever? For commercial, you can't say how do you compare a school to a house, right? So the way we do is we say how much water you use. Roughly, are you using roughly the amount as the common average house? And so even in those cases, they're going to get charged significantly more for their water use or their sewer use if it's associated with a high water use. So I think in general, for people that are going to be doing lots of watering, we should pull those two apart and not have their like water and sewer be on the same account in that way.
Are the mechanics of that possible? Is it just?
My impression is we have
versus
some
residential?
accounts that don't have, like, we have water users that have a septic, right? So like, I think conceptually, my understanding is you can have a water account and not a sewer account.
Right, some people get water, but they have their own.
Right, so I think I would say like the then. And different, and Like and the school has like 5 water accounts, right? So like I think
That's 2.
so I think you end up having a water account that is just for watering essentially. And you would use that, and then you wouldn't have a sewer attached to it, so you're not getting charged.
And sewer for them would just be flat.
No, the sewer would be attached to
The golf club.
The consumable water.
Right, so it'd
The
be-
clubhouse.
So it'd be,
Where they're-
municipal water versus commercial water. So there's a water meter.
Do we have meters in specific locations?
The golf course has an inside water account, and outside water account. Now, what's interesting is, once upon a time, they would water off of the inside water account because they're getting charged inside water. So this would then prevent that from happening, because now it's hitting their sewer fee. You use the outside water account as you're supposed to, which does not have a sewer attached to it. You're paying more for the water, but you're not being charged for the sewer piece.
I think the trick is that really just disproves the value of my analogy more than my argument, because the golf course is, then if they have 2, I'm thinking of someone who only has 1 residential user that waters their, like, my concern is less that this will be predominant throughout the village and more that we don't have a way to back off of the edge case. We're stuck if we can't find that, but I guess we can just we can look through who has the highest water usage fairly easily, right? If you say
Oh,
more
yeah,
of
we
these
have-
people and what they do.
we have all of that, and actually, I think part of what we can do, kind of regardless of where we go with rates, is see who's highly impacted, and we have a spreadsheet, and I've already looked at that a bunch of different times of like,
Oh,
who's gonna
so
have their water bill go more than, $50 a month over or something, or 100 or whatever.
Then
And
all
then-
of that is to say, I conceptually totally agree, and I would like to look at that stuff.
I think it'd be
See how we
helpful
can
to see.
mitigate.
I want to, yeah, I'd like to see it too.
See what that impact is.
Particularly for a brewery.
Mhm.
I don't think they have a separate meter for, right? So, and let's say another, a cidery comes, a winery comes. If you have something that's using a high volume of water that is not going to serve a drinking product. It would be great if we had a cidery winery as well. Can you?
The-
can you
the thing is
set a
they're-
commercial rate that-
The thing is, they're gonna still see that in their EDU, right? They're gonna see that.
But the flow.
You'll see it in their EDU, but then. If the sewer rate is volume based. Then they're getting charged twice for the water,
Right.
that won't impact the sewer.
Yeah,
You just have to look at the highest users. and see who they are.
Right.
right. I mean, it's 6 one way, half a dozen another way. The way that it looks is, looking at the sheet, if we don't have a per 1,000 gallon rate there, everyone's per EDU is going to go up, right, by $130, $140 per year, right? Because the money has to come from somewhere. So the money has to come from somewhere. We're talking about how do we distribute the money. And so if we don't have a charge on the rate of water, then that base rate is going to have to go up quite a bit. And that base rate is still distributed based on water usage at the end of the day, because it's EDUs.
Right, so then how does that option 2 look for a high volume user?
I would,
Everyone else's base rate goes
Right.
to 234 plus some number.
so in general, right, if we're charging with water, a usage rate, that tends to impact more like large commercial users.
So
Typically,
I think what I'm saying is I'd like to see what that impact is on the sheet. So if of option 2, if the high volume commercial water user sees their total, start this a different way. If in option 1,
Mhm,
everyone's getting charged $370 a year.
right,
If in option 2, the high volume commercial water user ends up with a sewer charge that's $1,200 a year.
right,
And it's clear that the water usage is not going down the sewer,
yeah.
then that seems skewed in the wrong direction.
I think the trick is that because it's based on EDUs, they're going to see a lot more than 370 anyhow. Because if an EDU is a 50,000 gallons per year, so if you're talking about a brewery that's using $250,000 or 250,000 gallons a year, they're going to see 5x of that 370. So at the end of the day, like everything is really just tied back to water usage anyhow.
And at the high end, it's almost redundant in some sense, right?
It does get a little bit redundant and it probably does. Honestly. We can look at that. I have all the spreadsheets and I can send that around. And I don't think. I think what I'll plan to do is. Try and get a couple of spreadsheets together to send around. I find it hard to really make heads or tails of it, but maybe others will. Like I'll make it very colorful and you'll see like where things are, but like we have, 800 lines. It's a little hard to like really kind of zoom out and understand. But you can also make a good idea of like, the car wash is always kind of stands out, right? That makes sense. So you'll see those things and we can take a look at it. We don't need to get this fully nailed down until the September bills are going out. So I think we have a little bit of flexibility and I can get some more.
That's if we adjust in this billing cycle.
That's fair. So maybe
Maybe
we
we
talk
want to
about-
stagger them if the September bill has the water increase on it,
yeah,
then maybe the sewer increase shouldn't come until the new year-ish.
yeah, I can be up for
And then
that.
6 months after that, the next increase, if we
I th-
stagger it.
We're in a better spot with sewer, so we have a little more flexibility. Water is definitely the critical piece. So let's see, it would be a September bill, October, November. So it'd be December bill. July, August, September, October, we'll go into November bill
And then.
and then the January bill. So let's target the January bill.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking we'll probably want to do like a half and a half again sort of thing like we've done before. Okay.
I think the spreadsheet will be helpful if for no other reason than to wrap our minds around the math being the same either way.
Right.
So that when we get questions about this,
Yeah,
we'll be able to explain.
How personal, like how much in identifying information is on the spreadsheet? Is it?
there's an address and I think a name. Yeah. Then if we don't go forward with this tonight, which is absolutely fine, I'm just trying to think of what else. I do think that with the new sewer law, though, Jess, maybe we should talk about. I don't want to say this. The current sewer billing has just random numbers for how many units per some of these places.
It was based on something somebody decided.
Yeah, and it hasn't been updated. Yeah,
Institutional knowledge of how.
random is probably wrong. Right. Someone made a decision. They probably made a good decision, but we haven't updated it or continue to poke at it. I would like to look at leaving the current rate the same, but starting to charge it based on per EDU so that we get it in line with our water. And so there will be some shifts there because some people still are paying, there used to be a movie theater, a movie store, a video store, and now it's LB and like they should be getting more because they have a kitchen, that kind of a thing. So I think there will be some adjustments, but they'll be modest. So I guess, and maybe this should be a resolution, is that we begin charging sewer rates on a per EDU basis at the current sewer with the sewer base rate, but we charge it per EDU, that we standardize on per EDU.
It would be very easy to get that data for a resolution in July.
Okay.
Which would then make that if you wanted to make an implemented for September, then you could.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna want to see what that would mean.
It will mean no changes for any single residence.
Right.
It will only be for commercial users, and we've been notifying them and messaging out ahead of this that any kind of EDU changes could potentially impact them. But yeah, if you've got a thought on
Let's just do
data
that.
around that,
Right, okay.
we can take that in. And so for July, we'll look to
Okay.
do that.
I also just wanted to give a little bit of end user feedback from the payment reception office, which is we shifted to be 2 months instead of 4. So there is a sense that you're sort of always paying the water bill. And
There is a sense you're always paying a lot.
even though you're paying less, it just feels differently. And so you might want to consider, maybe you already have, if you do a water increase and then a sewer increase and then a sewer increase, is that actually more painful than doing it once, but giving people enough time who are on a fixed income to plan? This is what the rate will be. It will happen in 4 months and we're not going to touch it again, or just something for you to consider. I don't know what the answer is, but
I don't know either.
it feels like
To
a
me,
great.
it's more the messaging question than anything else.
Yeah,
As long as, if they're like, do we send a postcard to everyone and say, this is gonna keep happening? That feels tough. No matter what, right? Because it's more about the preparation than how it happened. To me, the staggering is nicer, if for no other reason than it fundamentally just costs less. It's just a little bit easier.
and for people in the perception and the lived experiences, this is constantly changing and always getting worse.
And that, I mean, I think that is the trick, is the communications around that.
Right.
And I frankly don't know how to do it. I mean, unless every bill has a note on the bottom that like, these are the rates that have been planned because of the new sewer and water systems. They are being implemented now. We will be done by, well,
Yeah, I mean, that is basically the plan. We're gonna have something at the bottom of each bill now. There's a page on the website that has all this information. And maybe there's a bit of like a both, sort of like a why not both approach, which is to say like, we're going to phase this in. The plan is to phase this in. Here is the structure, here's the timeline. Plan on this happening. We are phasing it in to reduce any one individual blow at any given time.
Mhm.
After which time we will wait and reconfigure and adjust, but we anticipate being able to hold that for some period of time and see how.
That
Things
definitely
adjust.
speaks to my concern, and frankly, a lot of the people who have those issues come into the office to pay. So it'd be very easy to have a nice piece of informational signage that they could have and digest that way, or in the newsletter. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we won't- I mean, we-
That's,
We won't have all, well, we won't have all the details, but I think from this conversation, we can start talking about. We're doing this one in September, we're doing the next one in January, we'll do a following one in September. Find another, maybe it's the July one, so it's kind of every 6 months or so. And we will play this out, or maybe it's January and January again,
okay.
we can start playing with kind of getting the broad strokes of it and say we're working on the exact rate increase details.
Okay. Anything else on sewer rates? So we have a resolution to adopt New York State Archives retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records. I am not aware that this wasn't done in the past, but I am also not sure that it was, and no one can find any records to that effect. So
The irony is deep.
to make sure that the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, we have before us a resolution which states that at a meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees held on this 12th day of June 2023 at Village Hall 56 East Main Street, Trumansburg. It was resolved that the retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records, LGS 1, issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records, is hereby adopted by the Village of Trumansburg for use by all officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Article 57A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records after they have met the minimum retention periods described therein. And B, only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods. And would someone like to move that?
so moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? Conversation? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And again, we have a resolution which I am not aware was done, but was neither aware that it wasn't done, but we don't have a record of it. So at a meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees held on the 12th day of June 2023. We have a motion which states that be it resolved that the Village of Trumansburg shall maintain all digitally created records in their native digital format for the legally prescribed retention period of the record. And be it further resolved that the Village of Trumansburg shall maintain all digital records adhering to the guidelines set forth in the regulations of the Commissioner of Education, Part 185.8, and copies of records in other formats, including paper, shall be deemed convenience copies and disposed of when no longer needed for reference or other administrative purposes.
And make that motion.
A motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other items of new business?
Yes, this tree situation.
Yes, trees.
So,
Trees.
this is an ask that came to Dusty. I pointed him at Tom. I think both of them would like maybe this board to have an opinion. We will see. If you can picture looking at the Atlas sign, it's close to the road, quite up high, blue sign lettering. There are a number of trees all around that. They're nicely appointed and I think put in. I don't know when that happened, but of those trees, there are one on either side of that sign that are rather close, are now starting to get rather tall and are making the sign effectively impossible to see from the road. I don't remember, I don't know who exactly, I'm assuming it was Todd, but someone from Atlas asked Dusty, hey, can we do something? Can we trim them back? Can we get somewhere at something about these trees so that the sign is more visible from the road? I think Dusty's opinion is that anything that would meaningfully make the sign more visible would destroy the trees. So there's not really a way to kind of like have the trees and the sign be visible. And that really probably they would have to take the trees down to make the sign particularly visible.
They're definitely in the right.
They're in they would definitely be in the state DOT right away.
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah,
There
they're
are trees that we planted.
Right.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah,
And so that is the question.
I'd like to go look.
Are they
Yeah.
movable?
No.
They're not. You
I mean,
can't just,
they are, but it is financially not a viable option. It's very, very.
even with the
expensive.
equipment that we have, we
We
couldn't,
don't have.
we don't have the
at all.
equipment to move that.
Not even close. No, it's
That's a bummer, because
It's
we
very
could move them up by the
specialized.
water tower.
very specialized equipment. We could, maybe the smaller ones on the road.
So I think,
I'd like to take a look. I think.
I think the ask is the ones that are really right close. I think my impression is that there was like hey, there's lots of them around. We don't have to touch all of them. How about the two that are just right up
It's
against
a
them?
broader issue, right? 'Cause
Okay.
The ones that are further away will get bigger.
Well,
too.
eventually, it's true. Yeah.
I'll take a look because I think
Yeah.
it's solvable. It dovetails nicely with the tree training that I want to do with the DPW. So maybe
Oh,
that's
nice.
how we do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
I
figured
think it's doable.
you were the right one to think about, or UN or Stack, one way or the other. So,
Yeah. I think it's doable. I'll take a look. and
Okay.
it will be, the timing is literally the worst possible in terms of when you prune trees seasonally, but
well, and I don't know if there's if we said it should be happening in the fall or in this earlier
Yeah,
next spring or something, I'm sure there's wiggle room on it.
and it would be a real downer to take those trees out.
Yeah.
That is a lot of pavement, a long stretch of road.
Some of the
There's no
questions,
trees.
yeah, some of the questions I had for Tom, and I didn't get answers from Dusty, and I didn't ask Tom directly, so this could be part of the puzzle, is is that sign kosher? Like, we have sign laws, and I don't know if that sign is following all of those, which is to say that if it's not, do we want to cut down trees for it or not? I don't know. Just adds a little wrinkle to the whole situation. And then also, I think, I don't know how the trees came. I know that I know there's been a number of site plan review processes for Atlas, and things have been done or not done according to that.
I believe the inner ones they planted. Or something, or you're right that there is something there that they were obligated to do.
And I would hate to say that we had a site plan review that said you have to plant trees and then they planted them and then everyone forgot. And 10 years later, we just cut them all down. Not to say that they were doing that, but those were some of the details I had from like the planning side, but I don't know enough about that. But you may also be able to come up with a
We
kind of
won't have to
middle,
cut them down.
a middle road approach anyhow. So
There's definitely a middle road, but there is some question that I hadn't thought of, which is it us? So obviously the ones on the road, but the ones on their side, I think, am I remembering that right? That was,
I don't remember what, some of those were planted when the sidewalks were put in. Some of this is Main Street project era,
right?
and they were a lot smaller when they were.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I
Right.
thought it was Main
Dave
Street
Allen
project
planted
era
this
too.
probably,
Yeah, for sure.
so 16 years,
Yeah.
no wonder they're getting big. But I don't remember which.
I'll take a look.
all right,
It's
thanks.
useful, but have you asked Tom about the sign ordinance to double check in the?
I haven't directly. I had asked Dusty to, and I didn't get all the details from him, just that like Tom would like us to discuss this. It was a text message today, so I hadn't really dug in deeply. I can ask him what he,
I can follow up. I'll just,
Yeah.
why
don't you follow up?
yeah, I'll take it from.
Appreciate that.
Okay, is that it for those trees?
That is it for those trees.
Any other items of new business? Okay, hearing none, we're at our second public comment period. If there is anyone, I do see one member of the public has joined us online. Oh, Mary, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something in regard to water. I had an incident where I had a leaky toilet valve, and my water. I actually have tracked my water usage for the last 10 years in a spreadsheet. It's just my accountant mindset. And so my usage started going up like around a year ago. Although I couldn't tell, maybe I was watering the lawn more or something. I don't, it went up from, 4,000 to 7,000 gallons. And then the bill that I got at the end of August was 17,000 gallons, which is a lot more than a two-person household, just living a regular life would be using. And so I contacted the office and asked, maybe there's something wrong with the reading. And then the next month, it also was 17,000, or the next bill, it was also 17,000. And then the end of December, it was 19,000 gallons. And so I started looking into, what does a household usually, they usually use up maybe 2,000, a two-person household might use 2,000 gallons a month. I did I Googled, how to figure out if you've got a leak. And I just, we definitely had a leak and replaced this toilet valve. And then the usage went down to 2,300 gallons in February. So that's a big jump. And the thing is, it's not that big a jump in terms of what it costs. It was only like, $80 more or something. And, there are a lot of people that they don't even look at their bill. They just pay it and throw it away. And so I was wondering if there was any way that, if you were interested in conserving water, to notify people whose bills take a big leap, that maybe they have a problem. Because if I wasn't tracking this in a spreadsheet, I probably wouldn't have figured it out.
You know, that's a great point, Mary. There is a way, and we're looking into it. Bolton Point installed real-time cellular read water meters across their entire system. And so they're able to actually notify people on a real-time basis if they see a spike in usage based on their previous history. What I have not been able to find yet is how much that costs. If it's $50,000, $100,000, we might be able to plan for it or apply for a grant. $1 million, then we're talking about something completely different. So
Right.
that would be the way to do that is using that type of system. Now Bolton Point is obviously much larger than we are and has many more users across multiple municipalities. But I think that it's something Jessica and Jen and I have been talking about for the last few months. Trying to get an accurate quote on the infrastructure needed to be able to monitor that. And hopefully we'll have some information on that at some point.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to let you know about my experience that, there are probably other people who, are, wasting water like that and may not even be aware of it.
Yeah.
That's
That's
all.
a good point.
And that's tied into a billing software, potential billing software change too. Yes, or am I crossing my wires? So I think
And that's what I'm thinking. If everyone decided tomorrow that they wanted to know what their historical usage was for their account, I would need to start a waiting list of when I could fulfill all those requests.
right.
We do have historical reads in the current software, but we're exploring software that might allow you, the end user, to see your historical record.
Right. And something a little more modern might even be able to say, hey, your bill went up 100% since the last one. That's confusing. And like, even without having the, hour by hour reads, which would be significantly better for a burst pipe or something like that. Maybe even software we can, but yeah, basically we're very interested in looking into these things and trying to help people out.
In fact, we are.
We are, yes, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
We are actively looking at.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Any other public comments? If there is no additional public comment, then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss potential EMS hire as well as a police personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Stand by. Have a good night, everybody.